The Music Retail Show.
All right, we are back for another episode. Richard, I feel like we've been doing quite a few episodes this month.
We've been doing a lot of
We've been pretty busy this month.
Yeah, we have.
So
this has been a good month.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from some of the episodes that we did over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm excited, man. We're just keep rolling it. We've got a lot of opportunity. We got a lot of episodes actually coming up. So we're getting ready to go back out.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot that we probably have a few we haven't released yet. I mean, it's actually pretty bad because I go back and listen to all of them to critique ourselves, and I'm actually behind, so I know other people are behind as well. So after this one, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll do another one here in a couple weeks. But right now, we've got a cool, exciting guest that we're excited about.
Yeah.
What's cool about this, as if I was interviewing a drummer, I would talk a lot. You're going to do pedals, and we're going to interview this gentleman. So I'm going to just sit back and just kind of screw around for a little bit. So actually, you're going to take a little bit more charge here, and that's going to be kind of fun. And I'll try to ask intelligent questions.
Try to have
questions.
some fun. Okay.
I'll try.
Well, hey,
there's no guarantee.
Absolutely. Well,
I know a few jokes that I've learned over the last couple of weeks.
Are there pedal jokes?
What's that?
Are there pedal jokes? I don't know. But
No.
I don't know. But we actually had Josh from Ludwig on the show, and they were talking about bearing edges and I don't know, triple ply or quadruple ply stuff. And I was just sitting here. I asked like 4 questions the entire interview. And I think the interview lasted 17 hours.
And what was funny is we didn't even acknowledge those questions.
Yeah,
we were just like, here's a guitar player.
Yeah.
But anyways, before we get started, go ahead and introduce our guest today.
Man, we've got Zach Broyles from Mythos Pedals.
Yes.
That's it.
Mythos Pedals. Zach, man, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Very cool. So we've had a lot of conversations within the music industry, but you know what? Pedals is a huge business right now.
Massive
business.
Yes.
So, man, I thank you coming on. Man, we're looking forward to getting your perspective on a lot of things.
Sure.
But, man, Zach, you lived in Nashville for several years, but hey, just give us a little bit of your background and who you are, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm from a little town called Sparta, Tennessee.
Oh, it's a cool town.
Where's that
It's
at?
all right. It's right below Cookeville, in between Nashville and Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
That's part of where the name kind of comes from. Sparta, Mythos, Greek, myth,
wow.
whatever.
Hey, we just learned something.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
But spent most of my life there, and started playing guitar when I was 15, and then got into, tinkering with stuff, and that eventually led to becoming a pedal nerd that I am right now. But yeah, moved to Nashville, I guess, in 2015, and that's really when all this kind of started taking off.
Okay.
After I moved to town.
Where now you were a guitar player?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever play in bands, or was it always just kind of a hobby?
Well, I play. Well, I mean, I had like a terrible punk ska band in high school, and
that is a terrible mixture.
yes,
Were there good punk ska bands?
No.
Or no?
Well,
there's no such thing, man.
Yeah, no, there's not. And we were exceptionally bad. So, but I
There's
did
got to
that.
be some footage out there. That
Oh
we can,
yeah. They're on like a 3x5 cards, because when I was in high school, that was the only like form of the way to save data. So you can't access it anymore, which is good for me.
Man, no YouTube videos.
No, not of that. This was like in 99, and so it was right before everyone had smartphones and stuff.
Yes.
So I dodged that bullet. But then in college, I played in like Americana bands and like some more like kind of out there experimental rock bands, kind of like the Mars Volta and like At the Drive-In sort of thing. So post punk, I've been in all sorts of stuff, but nothing has been like. I've never been a serious like being a musician is my life.
Okay.
I've always. That's always just been my hobby.
Yeah. Well, obviously, something interested you to start tearing apart pedals, or in that world. How'd that all start?
Well, I've always been a tinkerer my whole life. I would take apart toys when I was a kid, and my dad, at a very young age, gave me a soldering iron to.
Wow.
Yeah, he just said, "Don't touch this part," and I was like, "Okay."
Did you have any siblings?
I have a sister. I have a younger sister.
Oh, that would be so tempting to just like.
Oh no! I
that?
tormented her enough. I would never. I shot all my my Nerf guns at my sister had.
Okay, gotcha.
She got that.
That's what my kids do now. So.
Yeah.
Then, but
Mine use BB guns.
oh
no.
But I started, messing with that stuff when I was a kid. I've always torn things apart. But I got into pedal modding when that first hit the scene, when Robert Keeley started doing it, and Analog Man. I mean, he'd been doing it for a while, and then Brian Wampler. That's what those guys were doing really before they started making pedals. And so I was just a forum troll and read all that stuff and learned what I could. And so that kind of kicked off everything in the mid 2000s, I guess.
Yeah, the Keeley mods, I remember those back in the day. You could either get the plans or you could buy the parts. And I remember it was a big deal to do like the Keeley mod on the DS1.
Right, the Seeing Eye mod.
Yeah. So it was like a big deal. And I remember a buddy of mine was just like, I know all the parts. I can just get them all for $11 and I can do it. But I know everybody was trying to figure it out themselves.
Right.
So,
well, Keeley he would like let all of, he put all his mods on his website, but not everything. So people thought they had all the secrets. And then you play a real Keeley and you're like, wow, that does sound better.
Okay.
But that's kind of how I got started in tinkering with guitar effects, was just with modding.
So you tried to mod your own pedals, trying to figure out, hey, what could I do differently to these?
Right. I bought Brian Wampler's book because he made a mod book. And I bought that. And what I would do is I would go around to the local shops and I'd buy a used pedal here and there, or I'd buy them on eBay, and I would mod them and then try to sell them for a profit so I could do it again.
How'd that work out?
It was okay. But, if I made $20-$30, I was happy because I would get the money back and then have a little extra, and I could buy one more pedal or maybe two more pedals or something. And so it was just something I did for fun, basically just to give myself an education on kind of how this stuff worked. And
did you call them something specific?
No, I still own guitarpedalmods.com.
Oh, wow.
So I had that URL, and I would sell stuff on there. I'd sell services on there. People would send me stuff and I would mod it.
That was fun.
Yeah. And it was just something I did, just to make a little extra money, but I did that on there, and then mainly on eBay. Because this was before Reverb.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
So that's really where all that got started. I guess like 2007 or so, maybe 2006, 2007.
All right, so you did that for a few years then, just doing that. When did you try to build your own pedal? When was that first one?
Well, I had a Dunlop reissue fuzz face, and it died. It became a radio essentially, because when those transistors crap out, sometimes they just pick up AM. Yeah. So I had this cool, enclosure, and I thought, well, I could make a fuzz face. So I got on Small Bear Electronics. They've been online forever, and they have all the parts you need. And I bought like all the components to make a pedal, and I made it, and it worked, and it sounded good. And so that was like the bug, and that was probably around the same time, maybe like 2008 or so. And so I literally, bought what's called a perf board, where it's a little tiny circuit board that has holes and copper pads, and none are connected. And so you put all the components through and bend them and then solder them part to part, and made my own circuit. And it really, it lit the fire in me to say, I could do this,
Okay. You were following specific plans, or you were just winging it?
Well, I had the schematic, and I saw how you kind of made the layout. And, if once you understand what the symbols on the schematic means, for a lot of guitar pedals, especially like a fuzz, it's really simple.
Okay.
You may not know what they all do, but, that's resistor, and that's capacitor, and that's connected here, and that's connected there. And so on a circuit board, I did my own layout myself, and it worked, and it was very exciting for me, so that it, the first time I turned it on, it made a sound, and a good sound. Okay. Because I've definitely made some pedals that the first time I turned them on, they did not make a good sound.
Sound good. Well, I'm sure everybody, you've got to go through that, you got to make mistakes to realize how to do things correctly, I think, in the long run. So. But so how did Mythos pedal then kind of be born out of that? When did you try to make that decision to go, hey, I'm going to do this?
Well, the name was something that, because I had been making pedals in just raw boxes, and I didn't have any art or names or anything on them. So I wanted to do something mythological, because a lot of the pedals I wanted to copy were, unobtainable, basically. Vintage tube screamers were expensive when I started doing this, and so I wanted to make a copy of that. And of course the Klon Centaur, wanted to make a copy of that, and those were real expensive. So the idea was at first I was going to call them mythological pedals.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy, Mike, who said he was like a history major in the local university, and said, you should call them Mythos because that's Greek for myth. And I'm like, that's cool. And then came up with the Zeus face logo. And that all kind of started around the end of 2010. And I just was making stuff for myself. What I would do is I would make two. I'd make one for me, and one I'd sell, or like a buddy would buy for like no money.
Yeah.
And so that's really where it all started. But it was never something super serious. It was just a pet project that I did for fun when I had spare time.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
When you're doing this on time, I mean, what are you doing for work? I mean, how are you eating food right now?
Well, back then I worked for my dad. He sells Christmas lights.
Oh,
and
really?
so he had one of the very first online Christmas light retail stores. They launched their site in 1993 or 4.
Wow.
So All American Christmas Company. And he sells like light strings and stuff, but he also sells gigantic commercial Christmas trees, 100-foot tall, Christmas trees. And so I was doing that stuff, doing website stuff, and shopping cart maintenance and inventory. There's only like 4 or 5 of us, so it was a very small team. But I worked with my dad.
Okay.
And this guitar and pedal stuff was just stuff I did for fun, after 5 o'clock. But I've only had a couple jobs in my life, and that was the first job I had, and I had that job for a long time, ever since I was 14 until about just a few years ago.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Man, very cool. So what was the first pedal you made within the Mythos line?
It was the Mjolnir, which I brought an updated version of it, but it was a tweaked version of the Klon Centaur, which back then was $800 or $900, and now they're crazy money.
It's familiar knobs.
Mm-hmm, yeah, yes. The knobs are they are the same knobs, except for the white line on there.
Hey, so it's just sidetrack. So why do you think the Klon Centaur has just because why has it become so expensive and sought after? I get it. Like you understand. I mean, we could talk about the whole Dumble situation too, but just give me your thoughts on that.
Well, they were limited. I think he only made 1,500 or so original pieces.
Yeah. And what's his name again?
Bill Finnegan.
Bill Finnegan. That's right.
So he didn't make very many. I mean, and that number over, he started making them in the mid 90s. So 1,500 over that many years is not a whole lot of pedals.
No.
But it's just like the desirability of it became so huge because when he was making them, they were probably one of the first boutique pedals. Especially, it was definitely the first boutique pedal in like a custom enclosure.
Yeah.
And it was $299, $350. It was really expensive for the early 90s. A pedal, you had Boss and Ibanez, and they were like $50, maybe $70, $100.
$99.
Yeah, so a $300 guitar effect was kind of insane. So it's a lot of like vintage guitars and stuff. Like people started playing them. Yeah. Jeff Beck, all the big artists started attaching their sound to that pedal, and I think that really kicked off a lot of the desirability of it. But just the limited numbers, and they are really good. There's something really magical about them.
And I guess the question that I keep thinking of in my mind is why in a world today where you have a lot of great pedals and a lot of great companies making pedals and even trying to replicate those circuits. Mm-hmm. Man, those pedals just keep getting more and more and more expensive.
They're up to $3,000 now.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is. If it's just hype, but like I said, the Gibson Custom Shop are making some of the best guitars I feel like they've probably ever made, and I've played a lot of real 59s right next to the reissues, and there's something special about those original ones, but the reissues are really close. Is there that big of a difference between the guitars? I would argue not really, but a real burst is $250,000.
Oh, I know.
and a reissue's $8,000 or something. So a lot of it's just the desirability and the collectability. I think is a huge part of it.
We've actually been big fans of Gibson here on the show. I mean, seeing them bounce back and make
yeah.
some great decisions lately has been, I think, is a huge win for the music industry.
Oh yeah, totally.
And they actually, it's the 60th anniversary of the '59 Les Paul, and so they had all those ones come out, and they're making a big push on those. And I just think some of those you can get it in like 8 different colors or 7 different colors or something like that, and man, I just think they look spectacular.
Oh, they're really good. They're really, really good.
Oh man,
but
darn it.
I could talk for hours about Les Pauls. So.
I'm still trying to figure out how I can get one of those and not let my wife know about it.
You just have to leave the house with a guitar case and then come back with the same case and that guitar inside.
He acts like he's done that.
Yeah, have you done that before?
No, I've just learned from great people. They've told me stories. I would never do that.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. So cool. So this is it, the Mjolnir. Darn it. Okay.
It's a hard one.
I apologize about that.
I regret naming it that, but
Mjolnir. But it was a single enclosure that you started with.
That was the first one.
Yeah. So as a small business, kind of doing what you're doing, you're not even in Nashville yet. You're still over in Sparta, Tennessee at this point in time.
Back then, yeah.
You back then. Mm-hmm. So how did you see, as if you're talking to small businesses or other people trying to get into this, or people trying to learn how you are, what helped catapult you forward? What was the point at which you're like, oh, okay, man, this is actually going to turn into something?
Well, it's really overwhelming making this stuff, especially when you're doing it all yourself. For me, initially, I would get really burnt out. Because when things would start to click and people would start to play them, because I had some buddies from being in bands who were, touring with some semi-professional musicians, and so, people would spread the word and orders would come in and I would just kind of like shut down. I think you really have to commit to it.
Yeah. You've
really got to lock in and say, okay, I'm going to devote this time, every day to do this. But if you don't do that, it's going to kind of leave you. It's just going to pass you by. And so initially that happened to me a lot. I would get burnt out and I would stop doing it. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to really say, okay, I'm going to do this. And that was the tipping point for me, is I finally sat down and said, this is something I want to do. I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to put money into it. I'm going to really, really try and not, wimp out and stop when it gets hard.
Yeah. When you say burnout, are you talking about because you had a regular job and this was on top of it?
Yeah.
And that's what helped with the burnout?
That was a big part of it.
Okay. So
yeah,
just to clarify that.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. That's just
they're calling us home.
Yeah, that's
building's not on fire.
Yeah.
That was
that'll happen again in 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. That was a huge part of it.
He's looking up to the roof.
Yeah,
something's gonna fall on my head. Yeah.
I've heard this sound before.
Yeah.
When I you work 40 hours a week, or more, and then coming home, the thought of having to come home and not be able to relax and just have to work again.
Yeah.
And I was doing, at this point, I was doing everything but the enclosures myself. I was etching my own circuit boards. I was drilling my own circuit boards. So it was a lot of effort to make one pedal. Whereas now I don't do that. There's not enough time. But back then, to really, I wanted to make it my own, but in doing that, it really, I kind of shot myself in the foot.
Sure.
Because, just drilling one of these circuit boards, it'd take a long time.
So you don't do that now? Do you mean you have somebody else do it, or you buy them already pre-done?
Well, I design the circuit boards, and then I get the circuit boards from a fab house. Gotcha. So there's no components on them at this point. But yeah, I just order them by the 100.
Gotcha.
So there's no way I could do that right now. It's crazy.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So I'm just wanting to keep going on the timeline just know a little bit more. But what was what was the pedals that you moved into next? Were you listening to people going, hey, can you build this for me?
Yeah, I made a tube screamer clone.
Okay.
People would ask for that, and I'm like, you can buy a tube screamer. Why do you want me to make you one? But then I made that. It was called the Herculean, the original Herculean.
Yeah, I've actually had one of those. So,
yeah?
Yeah, great pedal.
Oh, awesome. Then I made a Bluesbreaker pedal called the Daedalus, and that was initially I only had 3 pedals.
Yeah.
And it was a few years until I really started to expand the range. But I made those for a few years, and then after I moved to Nashville, I decided to really give it a try because Morgan, my now wife, she was like, "You're good at this. People like them. You should really try it." And I started talking to more YouTubers, and I got some pedals in their hands, and they really helped me become part of the conversation and give me the push to do it.
Well,
so that was like 2015.
Well, and I've noticed you've obviously been on the pedal show, or that pedal show.
I've not been there, but pedals have been there.
That's what I mean. Sorry, you've been, and then obviously Anderton's is so, which are two huge shows that are
Massive,
on YouTube.
yeah.
So,
and Rob Chapman and I are really good friends.
okay,
So like he's got 600,000 YouTube followers and stuff, and so he and I are buddies, and he was one of the first guys to really use them and then talk about it, and that was probably early 2016. He posted a video and he said that he loved this pedal, the original Mjolnir, and said the brand was going to be a brand to watch, and from that point I got Anderton's, and then I got a few other stores, and I had to actually start doing it.
yeah. Do you feel like 16 was the tipping point then?
Totally. Yeah. Like 2015, I said, I'm going to like open a Mythos bank account. I'm going to put money in it, and I'm going to like give it an honest try.
Yeah.
And so that's when I did that. But it wasn't until early 2015 when I really said, okay, now I'm getting orders, and I actually, not one or two a month, which was nothing.
Yeah.
I was actually selling some pedals, and that was definitely the time when it all happened.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, from our perspective, it definitely feels like paying attention to what you're doing. You've had a good run of success.
Yeah, so far.
Very cool. Let me see here. So I noticed on your website, is your wife involved too?
Yeah, she used to do more, but we have a 10-month-old. And
congratulations!
Thank you. And he takes up a lot of time. But,
does he? Okay.
But she helps when she can. She does circuit board population, and Instagram stuff, and just she actually helps reach out to dealers and things too whenever we have time to do that. But yeah, she's a huge part of it. But of course, with the baby, she just can't.
Yeah. Oh no! I totally understand. I've got three kids at my house. I got a 12, 10, and a 6-year-old.
Oh, man.
And, no, it does. It's just it's just a decision in life. When you just kind of in that phase in life. I remember years ago, an older gentleman was like, I was wanting to kind of do some stuff and wanting to kind of go out and and this was like some mission work back then, and I was just like, man, I just don't have time. And he goes, man, your mission in life right now is your children,
right?
And your spouse, and you know what? I needed somebody to tell me that at that point in time, because that was a big deal, because you kind of at some point in time you have to just put everything into perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But which obviously I think helps build your business too. I mean, if you can have priorities, and as a small business owner, I mean, have you had a hard time juggling everything?
Yeah, it depends. Of course, when everything's on your shoulders, and because it's just me right now, or just the business, like Morgan doesn't work, she stays at home with Graham, and so she helps me when she can. But when things are slow, I'm stressed because like I gotta sell some pedals, And then when things are busy, I'm stressed because I gotta build some pedals, So finding a balance is really hard.
This kind of stuff happens to everybody. Is that what it is?
Life. Yeah.
It is. It's business in general.
Mm-hmm. But finding a balance is kind of hard. You have to be very cognizant of being able to take breaks, and just going to lunch and getting out of the house is a big thing. And that I work from home. And that's hard for me, because if I know that all my stuff's in there just down the hall, and I could go, I could be doing something and accomplishing something, not just goofing off, but actually checking things off a list. I feel like I should be in there doing that.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to be like, no, I'm going to watch a movie, or just
you
got
to be a dad, you got to be a husband,
right? Yeah. It's a big balancing act.
Yeah, no.
Have you thought about maybe getting a place outside of the house, or is it not time, or is it just not necessary?
We definitely have talked about it. Right now, we're trying to buy a house. Well, we we closed, or we're getting ready to close on a house.
Yeah.
They accepted our offer.
Hey, congratulations.
And the bank said, okay. Thank you. So
it's that Mythos bank account, right?
that's right.
That's kicking in.
So I'm going to set up shop in the garage.
Oh, cool.
And I think that'll be better than
a little bit of separation.
Yeah, just being able to close that door and feel like a different space. Not because right now it's in a bedroom.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it's like I just feel like I'm in the house.
Yeah.
You could hear the baby crying.
Right.
You
Oh
could hear
yeah.
the wife. And,
Yeah. I feel like I need to go help. But if I'm in the garage and I can shut everything off, then I think that's going to help. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely considered it. It just depends, like finding a space that fits my needs.
Well, the garage is probably good because it is that separation, and it doesn't cost you any more. If you get a building, it's added cost, which takes away from your bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you make pedals, all the little leads and stuff from resistors, you're clipping them, and like I've looked at renting a space, but with carpet, it's just
jeez.
Yeah, you step on one, you'll learn not to drop any more of those.
You wear shoes in the room, huh?
Yeah. So that I'm excited at having somewhere I can sweep.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about?
We were talking about your life.
Oh yeah. No. But yeah, finding a balance has been something that you really have to work hard at. And I think I get I do like an AMA, Ask Me Anything Friday on my Instagram.
Oh, do you?
And
Okay.
people ask me a lot of questions about that kind of stuff because I think a lot of people are interested in how you do that.
Well,
It's life. It's real life.
That's exactly right. And I think there's a lot of people out there, and I think there's a lot of people who will be listening to this who want to aspire to have a small business, start small business, or how do you have a small business and take the next step forward?
Right.
And I think obviously you're somebody in the middle of that transition.
Yeah.
That has a lot of wisdom to kind of maybe contribute.
Yeah, a lot of it's just dumb luck and being at the right place at the right time.
It is. I mean, that's part of it too.
Yeah, like meeting Joey Landreth was just pure happenstance.
You need somebody to catapult you to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of it. But the thing I tell most people is just be patient and be persistent.
Yes.
Because I've been doing this, almost 10 years now. And it hasn't been but for the past few years where it's really succeeded and been able to, pay the bills.
Yeah, no.
Now, so are you mainly online, or you talk to selling to stores? Are you kind of doing both, or what's your platform?
Right now I do sell direct, and I have a handful of dealers all over the world. My hope is to not sell standard things direct and only sell like limited pedal, like this little fuzz, for instance,
which is cute.
Yeah, the high road.
Yeah, I actually like it.
The limited edition.
I like
stuff.
The design on it. The color.
Then I'm
a drummer,
that's the one who's using.
I'm a drummer, so I have to find other things I like about it. It's cute. It's light.
You see the bearing edges on the side.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's got like a 30-degree bearing.
Yeah, that's right.
Instead of a 45.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But the goal eventually is to only sell stuff like this, like a limited edition thing, direct, and so the dealers are getting all the power of the standard line.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, like dealers, they don't want you to sell direct.
No.
Oh, I know. This has always been a big conversation that we've had over the last year is where do you find the balance?
Right.
And what are manufacturers thinking when they make those kind of decisions?
Absolutely.
So are you pursuing more dealers, or are you starting to pursue more dealers, or where are you at in that game?
I'm trying. We're trying to. It's a balancing act in and of itself because trying to get everything made and shipped it, and then trying to think like, oh, we need to email someone in this state and that state. The goal right now is to really get just one or two solid stores in most states.
Gotcha.
And so just have a little bit of a foothold because I don't really want to work with online dealers. Most brick and mortar stores, I can sell online myself.
Sure.
I don't really want to have someone just selling online because I want people to be able to go try things.
Yep.
And I want to work with a store where I can build relationships with the owners or the people in charge of the pedals and stuff, and so that we all are kind of working together because, I want to push someone to a retailer if they're in that area, and I want the retailers to push my pedals because they like working with me and they like the product, and that's a big part of it. Is I just, the whole goal for the past year or so has just really been making stronger connections with stores.
Yeah.
But to clarify today, and just so anybody listening, because sometimes we deal a lot with music store owners and people like that, they kind of some of them get a little ruffled when we talk about this. But to clarify, the reason why you're doing it today is because you have a wife and a child,
right?
And you're buying a house, and you need to make money, and this is how you make money. But eventually, you want to move towards a brick and mortar market. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. And the only thing I'd be selling direct would be just the limited edition stuff.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times dealers, for me to do a limited stuff with a dealer, I have minimums for my enclosures, and they might not want to buy 20 or 30 pedals.
When you say minimums, are you talking about what you have to buy in order to do it?
Yeah, okay. For buying the aluminum enclosures themselves, and this is something that people ask me too, can you make me a one-off, or can you make me this or that? And I'll say, I can, but to get small runs of these made is a lot more expensive, and it's not cost effective.
Yeah.
If you're adding $5 to each enclosure, it's like, or $10 sometimes. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something too that dealers are cognizant of. But for me, I think if I can have them just manage all the bread and butter stuff, and then I can do little limited runs, and that'll put some money in my pocket for a month or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be a good balance. Yeah. That's the idea anyway. We'll see.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good model. I like that.
Yeah.
I think the brick and mortar stores need something that's like this, because everybody is, not everybody, but a lot of people tend to be frustrated because they're competing in so many different arenas, whether it's on big box stores, it's online, it's this and that. But this would give a brick and mortar store a little bit of separation, and also the ability to work with someone like yourself, which is a good close connection. So,
and one thing I do for dealers as well is the dealers get priority for orders, and I know customers that might order something direct from me might not want to hear that, but if you order from me, it's a pre-order, and I say it can be maybe 3 weeks before it even
saw that on your website.
It even gets
every
shipped.
pedal.
Right. So the dealers, they get priority. I build stuff and send it to them first. So they have the majority of the stock, because it's so hard for me to have like a standing inventory, just because it's a lot to build. But I think that's been a big part of it too, and I've tried to push people to dealers, and I think that's why I've had some dealers that have it's really been a good relationship, because people see that, I can just go here and buy it right now and get free shipping or whatever.
Wow.
So
now, on the dealer front, you've worked retail, so you'll know how to answer this question. So what kind of dealer are you looking for?
Mainly the first thing we whenever we're looking for dealers, we'll start either just a Google search in the state and see like what are the most popular guitars, who has the best reviews online, and then we'll do research on their social media, and that's a really big thing for us, is because I feel like Instagram and YouTube to a lesser extent, but Instagram right now is the best way for a store to really showcase what they're all about.
Yep.
And if I find a place that has great reviews, and I go to their Instagram, and it may just have like 500 followers. It may not have like a huge following, but they're active and they're showing what their vibe is, and how happy their customers are, or they take great photos. They really put a lot of care into what they're doing. That is a huge like plus for me, because I think that is such a crucial aspect of all retail right now. Before I even get on the phone, that's what we do.
Yeah,
we'll research that.
And even if it's that, I mean, actually remember, how long, it wasn't too long ago, people were like, Instagram, I don't know, I just do Facebook. It's like all of those ones, and now Instagram's kind of blown up. But it's like I feel like Instagram also can have a targeted market. So like you have a small music store, and you're like, they only have 500 followers. Well, those 500 followers, it's probably not somebody in Japan.
Right.
It's probably somebody local to them. That they're interested in what they have, what they showcase. They know somebody there, somebody works there, or they've bought something from there before. So, it can be a very focal audience.
Oh yeah. You can really. hone in on your area. And that's something, I have a lot of buddies that run some small guitar shops, and I'll tell them, like, you need to be doing more on this Instagram thing.
Oh, yeah.
And why is that? Because I'm playing devil's advocate here. Because sometimes, a lot of times, brick and mortar stores, their clientele may or may not be super strong on Instagram.
That's true.
Because Instagram appears to be a little bit younger crowd. A lot of store owners tend to be a little bit older. So how do we mix that up? Because there's a lot of good stores out there that may go, man, I just don't do Instagram as much as I'd like to, because I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, I don't have that. So that isn't the only thing that you're looking at, but it is something that you're strongly looking at.
Yeah, and mainly because it's been so crucial for our business, the social media aspect and connecting with players, because the people who are going to my website and going to my Instagram, I can see the age range, and stuff.
So it is important then, because the people that are interested in your product probably hit those ages,
right.
That's who you want to appeal to. And if they're not going out there and appealing to them, might not be the best fit as far as a store to a manufacturer.
Right. And I feel like Instagram is such it's an immediate way to show what stuff you have.
Yeah.
You might not have the world's best website, but you can take a picture of all the pedals you have in stock, and if someone scrolls your feed and says, "Oh, look, they have these,"
that's
they have
cool.
This.
And your feed looks great. I mean, you got Joey Lander throwing up a video or whatever right on there, and I mean, what an instant way for people to.
And
be
for
able
anybody
to see
listening,
stuff.
Nate has his phone and he's searching.
I'm looking at
now.
Mythos Pedals Instagram page.
Exactly.
So no, I think that's a great way to do it. So, and of course you got those beautiful Les Paul, and I was looking at the restoration you did or the refinish.
The refin, on the top.
So, not to divert from what we were talking about, but there is a nice looking Les Paul. So.
Thank you. But I just think, I know I worked at Carter Vintage Guitars. I worked there from around 2015 to the end of 2017, and the photographer, John Roncolato, he's on Instagram at The Guitar Photographer. He has a pretty big following.
And he did all of your photos, right?
He does a lot of my pictures, yeah. But he and I kind of took that store, because their Instagram game was fairly weak. And for a vintage and a used guitar store especially, I don't think there's any better way to get into the conversation for people looking at that kind of stuff than to just take really good pictures of some cool stuff you have in store. Yeah. And the Carter Instagram went from 3,000 to 11,000 followers in less than a year. And just the beauty of it is they've grown it so much, and they're using it in a way now that they can show stuff, and within minutes of posting something, someone's calling about it.
Oh yeah, man.
It doesn't have to be some $10,000 vintage guitar. It can be just some this is a really cool $500 quirky Fender or something, and someone will be like, "Hey, I'll buy it," and they'll call and they'll buy it. And it's gone.
So not to stop you, but anybody listening or watching Carter's Vintage in Nashville is what we would call a premier guitar shop.
Yeah.
And that's where you gain most of your experience. Briefly talk about that, so those we keep reference that they know exactly what Carter's is, because that's where you've gained a lot of experience as far as on the retail level.
Right.
And that could be part of why you have a passion towards brick and mortar stores.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. But I worked at Carter Vintage Guitars. Carter Vintage is owned by Walter and Christy Carter. They used to work at Gruen Guitars, which is one of the
and they're sweet people.
They're great people.
Yep.
But their whole thing is high end boutique and vintage, and really high end. Bursts, vintage Martins, pre-war stuff, all those iconic mandolins and things, all the Dumble amps, all the amps and guitars and mandolins that you would ever dream of and see in books. They
it's a museum.
That you can shop at.
Yeah, if you're in Nashville, you have to stop there.
You got to go. Yeah. But working there, it really gave me insight into how crucial Instagram was into getting in front of people's eyes. But Wildwood Guitars, just as a tangent, I went to Wildwood Guitars before we really dove in and worked on Carter Vintage's website, because I helped redo their website as well. And one thing that Steve at Wildwood said, all of my local customers shop online before they ever get in the car. And I thought that was such a profound statement.
Yeah.
That you have to be able to showcase your wares in some form or another before people ever even consider coming to try anything.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
That was very important.
It's a different world from years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was,
And he's telling you the truth
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
because their business is, I mean, Wildwood Guitars is amazing. And if you go there, it's a really small little place. It's like a room not too much bigger than this, and you go in, you say, I want to try this guitar, and they'll go get it for you, and you go in a room and can check it out.
Yeah.
It's not like this sprawling warehouse. It's just a tiny
Wow.
little space with a
Really?
warehouse in the back.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's-
Now, do they make it look big because there's active so much on social media? or-
You would expect it to be this gigantic place just from their social media and their YouTube, because
Yeah.
they do fantastic YouTube demos, but it's not. And I think that's an important thing to think of too, is you have to sell your brand and your
Yeah.
image, and that's that again why social media is so important. It's a free tool that you can sell who you are.
Yeah.
And so I always recommend
That's awesome.
people using it in that way.
Yeah,
That's
very
incredible. I like the way you're talking about it, because
Yeah.
it really gets me excited about social media. And sometimes I'd rather watch paint dry. But
Well,
anyways,
yeah.
but you're right though. It's a great platform for people to take their game to the next level,
Right.
And just showcase it not only to your small community but to the world.
Right, and it's something that it's so hard to get into it, because I think you really have to learn how to approach it and what you need to do to be successful at it. But once you do it, it's just something, it becomes habit.
Yeah.
And it's annoying to have to do posts all the time, and like sometimes you just don't want to be on your phone.
Yeah.
But you never know what one little thing is going to
Absolutely.
Oh,
take
yeah.
off.
Absolutely.
So.
Now let's talk about the casings a little bit. I
Sure.
mean, how do you? A lot of people are looking at it and probably going, "Wow, there's a lot of different shapes, a lot of different sizes, a lot of different things." You're saying when you order the casings, you have to order quantities to get breaks and stuff like
Right.
that. And so, is that how you look at them? Going, man, I feel like I can sell X amount of these, or do you make smaller orders with them, or how do you go about that type of routine in your business?
Well, usually whenever I come up with a pedal design, like let's say here, this is the red one here is the Chupacabra. So that's my ZZ Top in a box. This is a pedal I've been making for a while, but I just changed it to this bigger enclosure, and I moved the jacks to the top.
Which is kind of a trend.
It's
with,
the top mount jacks. That's a
top mount
hashtag.
jacks. Top mount jacks. I ain't playing it unless it's the top mount.
People really want it. So I had to redesign it, and instead of like losing my shirt and buying a crazy amount, I just bought 25. And so usually anytime I'm trying something, 25 is like the minimum.
Gotcha.
That makes sense financially for me to buy. So that's usually how I start. And everything, I want them to be a little bit more universal. This one's kind of the outlier right here. And these, everything's going to go to this format, this larger enclosure with the top.
Yeah.
And I want a transition where everything's really consistent in that way. But I do all the artwork in some form or another. Sometimes I'm manipulating images or just doing simple font and little line art like on this one. But I do all this, and I have to make all the drill files and everything. But that's I don't even know where I was going to go.
So you're going to go closer to all of these. Now, does the colors? Do you get them with the colors, or do you have to do the color?
Everything on the enclosures, they're done for me. So they're powder coated, they're drilled, and they're UV printed. So it's a UV substrate that's cooked with like a UV light.
Yeah.
So it's not, you can't get it off unless you have like scrape it with a pocket knife. But every different powder color, or like this one's textured, this one's sparkly. That's a different price point, and it's something you have to consider too. And a lot of times too, it's kind of a crapshoot, because you'll order something and you won't really know what it looks like until it gets in your hand.
Oh wow! So you don't get a sample. You just
I could get a sample.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I'm working with a company now, Pedal Parts Plus, and they'll send me pictures.
Yeah.
And you kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I trust their opinion,
Gotcha.
because they'll print one or make one, and I'll say, does this look okay? Because if it doesn't, let's do something else.
I see them at NAMM. They actually they've had a booth at NAMM at the summer show. But, so this is the newer Mjolnir.
Yeah. So this is the
did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Man, I'm doubting myself.
The newest one has the top mount jacks and there's different circuit changes.
Oh, so these are the same?
Well, this
one's exclusive for Wildwood guitars.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So they
see. I think this looks great.
It's cool. It's super cool.
And it says 001, so this is worth about $3,000.
I wish. If it was worth $3,000, I would sell it.
Hey, you want me to distract them and you can throw it in your bag?
Yeah. Wow. That's look at those.
Yeah, we'll split it.
So this one was, and this is something that I try to do with retailers too. There's a couple here where I want to do exclusive stuff.
Sure. Rift City and Andertons.
Right. So, this one's exclusive to Rift City and Andertons.
Yeah.
But the Wildwood Mjolnir, when I went there, they said, we like exclusive stuff. Let's do something that only we have. And we did this, and we've already sold almost 200 of them.
That's great.
Yeah. And they're really hard to make. They're the most time-consuming pedal that I make, but they sound great. And it is a similar circuit to this, but it's different. Just the circuit board has a huge effect on how a pedal sounds, just like an amp or something. But this one is just a slightly tweaked version of that classic circuit, and this one's even more tweaked.
So now I guess we can get into kind of like, now you really get to say what you want to say about Mythos pedals. Now, you know the pedal world, and you know how big it is.
Yeah.
Why do you think you stand apart from everybody else? Or what would you say, like if you were talking to a music store and you were like, hey, you've really got to carry my pedals?
Yeah,
what would you say?
I get asked that a lot, and I love a lot of different brands of pedals, and it's such a huge market. For me, I make everything to where it doesn't just sound good, it doesn't just look good, it feels right. There's something about being a guitar player that things have to respond to you, and everything I make responds to a player's touch and their hands in a way that some pedal brands just it's not even in their mindset, because I don't feel like a lot of people, they may be okay guitar players, but they're not really like super hardcore nerd guitarists.
Yeah.
Where every time I make something, I want it to not seem like there's a pedal on the floor, but just an extension of the amp and the guitar. I mean, some things are obviously different than that, like a fuzz.
Yeah.
But when you kick it on, I want it to just take what you already have and give you more of it and never take anything away, while being responsive and lively and organic, just like your favorite tube amp or your favorite guitar. That's a huge part of it.
Well, and obviously you obviously have different overdrives and different fuzzes, but like you would say, this is your Billy Gibbons in a box or ZZ Top in a box. So, so would you say, oh, hey, you know what, this would sound great with a Les Paul through a Fender Tweed amp or something like that? Like, do you have specific things like in mind when you're making it? Like you're wanting to make an extension of a guitar player, you might already have the concept of what that extension might be, and this is what would fit it best.
Right, in a way, like I want everything to work. I don't want there to be a bad sound in anything, and I want everything to work for almost any setup. The Chupacabra, the ZZ Top in a box pedal, I made probably 4 or 5 different.
I got to hear this, by the way.
Yeah, we'll plug it up. We made, so many revisions of it, because one would sound good with a Les Paul into like a Marshall style amp, but you put a Telly into a Fender amp with it and it sounded terrible. So I never want to pigeonhole anything into being like only functional with one person's setup, because who cares? That's not, I don't want to make stuff just for one guy. I want it to appeal to everybody, and I want it to function on multiple levels, and that's a big part of it too. I don't want there to be bad sounds and stuff, and I will dial that stuff out if I can.
Well, and so are you sitting there? I'm sitting here going, I don't build pedals, so I don't think about this, but now I'm starting to. Now, when you're sitting there and you're working on the circuit, you're going, man, I want to do this. Are you sitting there plugging this into a 6V6, a 6L6, an EL34, an EL84? Like you're running it through all of the potential
Sometimes.
Amps, and then going, okay, this is what I want it to sound like. So what are you thinking? What's your process?
Usually what I'll do is I have a Marshall style amp. I have a Friedman Dirty Shirley, and then I have a deluxe reverb. And so I'll play it through both of those with my small assortment of guitars. I'll see what I think. If it gets the thumbs up on those, then I'll take it to friends' houses. I'll take it to guitar stores, and I'll just say, hey, can I plug this into everything for like an hour or so? And most of the time people say, okay.
Yeah.
And I just try it with a lot of stuff, because there have definitely been moments where I'll play something with one setup and I love it. I genuinely think it's fantastic. And then I play it with something else and I just want to throw it out the window. So that's testing it on a bunch of different platforms is something I really, really try to do.
Okay.
And I'm guilty of not doing it all the time. But
does it have to pass your tests, or is it acceptable sometimes when you've got some of your buddies that you trust and they play it and you're kind of on the fence, or you think it sounds good but not great, but they go, no, you need to just leave this alone because this sounds killer? Do you ever go, all right? Because sound is subjective.
True.
And then sometimes people want something that maybe you hear differently.
Right. There have been some times where people have told me to leave stuff alone, but if in my gut I feel it's wrong,
you win.
Because I won't be able to sleep.
Gotcha.
I drive myself crazy thinking about stuff. I revised the Chupacabra when I put it in this box, and I'd messed around with it and I thought it was fine. And then I tried it again right before these enclosures showed up, and I hated it. And so I had to undo it.
Really?
And so I had to take the parts off the circuit board. It was very minor, but I even teased it on Instagram and said, hey, this is going to have a thing. And I took it out, so there's no thing inside there. But it has to pass my test. I want everybody to like it too.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if
be happy.
it's my gut.
Yeah, gotcha.
So why don't you tell us with the final opinion on this when it came, if Billy Gibbons actually got to hear it. What did he say?
He didn't plug it in.
Man.
Which I gave him one.
Yeah.
Who knows if he's tried it? It's probably like a doorstop or something. But he loved the artwork, and his wife, Gilly, I think is.
Well, it kind of looks like him a little bit. It's got a little bit of beard going
It's got
It's got 3 cowboys on it.
Oh,
yeah.
ZZ Top.
ZZ Top.
But he loved the name and the artwork, so I don't know. I like to think that he has it in a studio somewhere and it's a secret weapon.
And that was at Carter that happened?
Okay. Yeah, he came in, and I've met some pretty big guitarists, but he was one that I freaked out when I met him.
Good.
So him, and I got to meet Bill Murray at Carter Vintage.
Oh, really?
Of all people. And I'm as big of a pedal nerd. I'm an even bigger Ghostbuster and Bill Murray nerd. So I was
I got a trivia
shaken.
question then for you.
Okay.
What was Bill Murray's first movie?
That I don't know.
In what year?
Oh, that I don't know.
You know what's funny is we literally just talked about this morning. That's why I know this. Otherwise, it was Meatballs, 1979.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was his first movie.
Huh. Okay.
So, Bill Murray, if you listen to this, which I'm sure he's a regular listener, you can confirm that with us. So, So, anyways, so you've
and that was sarcasm for everybody listening.
Yeah,
Nate did
we
not
could've
have a
let that-
straight face.
Dang it. But so you've had some pedals that you've discontinued too. I've noticed.
Oh yeah.
So what was the decision to just time to move on, or you just?
Yeah, sometimes it's I feel. I mean, most of the things I'm making currently are overdrives and fuzzes and boosts and stuff. I feel really redundant a lot of time. Like, why am I making so many things that do almost the same thing? So some discontinued pedals were just because, I thought I can do this differently or better. So initially, when the brand was really kind of first kicking off, I had the Mjolnir, the Herculean, the V1, and then the Daedalus, and this pedal called the Earl King, which was a copy of a modded copy of a Noble's ODR1, which is like the Nashville
Oh yeah,
tone secret.
I've owned a couple of those.
And so what I wanted to do was kind of encapsulate all those pedals in this one pedal.
Yeah.
And so I discontinued the Daedalus and the Earl King, and then made the Herculean V2.
That's right.
But sometimes it's just I get bored with them, or the Earl King. I had a huge failure rate with them. I would make them, and I don't know if it was just the transistors or the chips I was using, but 1 out of 10 wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or it would be real noisy or something, and it just frustrated me so bad. So when I finally ran out of enclosures, I'm like, I'm not buying
I'm
anymore.
not doing it anymore.
So I have piles of circuit boards of all these pedals, but just no enclosures.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of it. Sometimes I just get bored and I don't want to make them anymore.
Now, I notice you don't have any time-based effects.
Working on it.
You're working on it?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm getting a prototype. It's shipping to me on the 18th
Oh, really?
from Canada. Yeah.
Okay. So why is time-based effects just something that's just a different monster?
Oh, yeah.
Than trying to do fuzzes and overdrives?
Right.
And,
A lot of modulation and like chorus and delays and stuff, they use, for me, I'd want them to be analog. And those chips are expensive. Those circuits they can be finicky.
yeah.
So I don't have a engineering degree or anything. I have a degree in psychology. So
How are you going to feel when you're playing?
that's
this?
right. That's the
Does that help with your marriage or is there any value with it?
No,
It's like, oh, no.
I try to dissect things. She's like, you need to shut up.
You need to go to the garage. That's what she's going to say in a
go to
few
the garage.
months.
That's really why you have the garage.
Yeah, absolutely. But
He's like, I'm going to go to my room. Work on pedals,
But doing the delay stuff or any of those things, the feature sets that I want them to have would be outside of my wheelhouse to design.
Yeah.
So the delay that I'm working on, I hired a designer who's way smarter than me and makes stuff that's way crazier than I would ever need, and so he's helping push the brand in that direction. So
Best delay pedal ever.
my favorite delay pedal is the Maxon AD999. It's
Really?
this big pink 900 millisecond
Oh, yeah?
analog delay. I love it. I absolutely love it.
What about the Deluxe Memory Man?
I love the Deluxe Memory Man, but for me, just the straight up 3-knob delay is like, that's all I need. But funny enough, the pedal that I'm working on, the delay pedal, is kind of a marriage between a Deluxe Memory Man and an Echoplex.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's
I don't have a whole lot of experience with that Maxon, but man, I'm telling you that I bought a Deluxe Memory Man in '98 when it was still hardwired. And,
Oh, yeah.
And man, I'm telling you what, there's just a shimmery thing that was going on the top of that
They're
that I
really
feel
good.
like a lot of companies, they try to mimic that, but it just is never there. I think one of the if you needed to find a budget delay pedal, I think the carbon copy actually does a good job with that.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great pedal. And the one that we're going to work on, which it's to be determined what we're going to call it. Well, I kind of have an idea, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we're going to call it. It's going to be a marriage of like the Echoplex preamp, because
Yeah.
the classic Echoplex has this great preamp that you can drive an amp with. Mm-hmm. Your classic mix.
those the old, they set them on top of the amps, right?
Yeah, the huge tube units,
Yeah.
and they have a physical tape in there.
Yeah.
So it's got that preamp. It has the time mix and repeats,
Yeah.
of course, like every delay pedal ever. It's going to have EQ controls for the repeats, so you can have a independent treble and bass, so you can make them real clear and bright or
Oh,
real
man.
bassy and dark.
Okay.
It's going to have a modulation button, not too dissimilar from the carbon copy.
Yeah.
So it has a button, and then on the side it'll have little trim pots, because that to me is like a set it and forget it, sort of affect the chorus on a
Yeah.
delay pedal. A very Ron Popeil idea of just you push that button and
Just
it's
leave
done.
it alone.
And then it'll have a subdivision switch, because it'll have a tap tempo, so
Yeah.
you can go from quarter note, eighth note.
To triplets or
Yeah, triplets, the dotted eighth, and all that stuff. So it'll have a little a push button with lights, so you can see what subdivisions you have.
Okay.
Tap tempo, and then you can hold the tap tempo, and it'll just scream into infinite repeats.
Oh,
And do
okay.
the alien spaceship
Oh,
sounds.
yeah, okay.
Like if you
Yeah,
put the feedback all the way up. it'll
yeah,
do that.
yeah. So it sounds like it's going to be a pretty involved delay.
Yeah, and it's digital, but it's voiced to be analog. But the reason it's digital is because those things, you couldn't do them on like with a reasonable price.
Yes.
Because all that stuff is possible, but it'd be $500 or $400. And like, I don't want to. No one's gonna buy it.
Well, and I'll tell you what, every delay pedal, like some of the reasons why I like the Deluxe Memory Man or the Carbon Copy or some of those is or even like the what's the Boss
DD3 or something.
Or well the Japanese
DM2
DM2s, and it's just kind of like you just kind of want to have like you want to do hey, I want to turn it up and I want to do the repeats, and like there's some really nice boutique companies that have delays that like you got 87 options, and you almost kind of like you kind of get lost in it a little bit.
Option paralysis.
You got to kind of give guitar players some options, but you also got to give them what did you just say?
Option paralysis.
Option paralysis. Seriously, because you're finally like, just screw it. I'll just keep it there and I'll deal with it. Because some guitar players, if you give them too many options, man, it's just kind of like. They start acting like drummers.
Right. I had so many things to say that it started with crowns. Anyways.
Well, that's true, and there's a fine line you have to walk between what people say they want and what you think they actually want.
Or what they can actually use.
Right. Yeah, what is pertinent to the sound. And even this thing is going to be way more features than I would have on a delay pedal. If I was going to grab and go with one, it would be 3 knobs.
No. I like options. It's just that there is a point at point in time you've gone, oh man, this is very involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is going to come out possibly later this year? Or?
Hopefully by Summer NAMM.
Okay.
I think, yeah. That's what we're thinking. It's a totally different build. Like all of these pedals, everything I'm currently making is through hole. So there's resistors, and I bend the little legs and I put them through the circuit board and solder them. But this thing is going to be surface mount, so it's tiny little computer parts.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to be more affordable. Yeah. I want it to hit a price point. I want it to be under like $260, $250, because I think that's the sweet spot. And that's the best way to cram everything on there.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that as involved as that pedal would be with through hole that I would have time to make it. So
yeah,
we're getting the prototype, and then after that there's a production house in the Carolinas that will do my circuit boards. So I'll just send them all the boards and the parts, and they'll come back to me done. So and that's something that I may have to do with all the other stuff too, because I'm kind of getting to the point where I can't stay on top of it.
Yeah. Are you wanting to do this, or you already have plans for like a phaser, flanger, delay, or I'm sorry, reverb? Or?
Well, a lot of people ask about a Univibe, and that's something I love. Univibe pedals, so that's something I've considered. The thing about any modulation, any pedal to me, I don't want it to ever sound stupid.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of pedals.
This is my stupid pedal.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of pedals out there.
That would be a good name for one.
My stupid pedal.
My stupid pedal.
Yeah. Then you hand it to the bass player here.
This will make you sound better.
Yeah, it's stupid.
That's right.
But there's a lot of pedals that pedal manufacturers make, and they're just so wacky. That's not my thing. I like really straightforward, subtle sounds, classic, guitar records and stuff, that I never want anything to be too out there. And I don't think the people that know my brand want that either.
Yeah.
So if I make a phaser or a chorus or a flanger or whatever, I want it to be super musical and just
practical.
Yeah. Not doesn't have to go wacky. Somebody else does that.
Yeah.
And if you want that, you go get it from them.
Yeah. Well, hey, you obviously are plugged in. Nashville. Nashville's a good town. We've all been here for years, and there seems to be a lot of small businesses within Nashville, all trying to make it and build it. So do you feel like there's a pretty good community here in Nashville? You've created friends, you've created people that have helped each other. I mean, is this a situation where Carter's kind of like, hey man, we like what you're doing, and just everybody supporting each other?
Yeah, for the most part. I have a few friends that build pedals here in town, like we were talking about before. Matt Hoops from 1981 Inventions. My buddy Grant from Big Ear Pedals. He's over in East Nashville.
Those are great pedals.
Yeah.
They really are. Where is he at?
He's in East Nashville.
Is he really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And Grant's a buddy of mine, and we're always bouncing ideas, and like when there's something a prototype, we go to each other's houses and like play them, and we are forever texting each other. And then I've made friends with like Dennis Fano at Novo Guitars.
Oh yeah.
In town, and having that relationship with them is awesome. Because I just, I want to have that community here, and I think it's a pretty strong place. There's not a whole lot of other brands, building stuff here in town. There's Exact Tone, they do a lot of pedal boards and stuff, and some great pedals, but there is a really strong guitar builder and guitar equipment community here in town. That's and I think it's going to just continue to grow.
Yeah.
And how do you keep it where everybody kind of gives everybody their own space?
Well, I think we're kind of all hitting like a different thing. Grant from Big Ear, his pedals, like he makes like, really killer like distortions and like fuzzes and stuff, and his vibe is different than mine. And like the people that know his pedals are different than the people that know mine. And I never feel like anyone's stepping on my toes, and I try not to step on anybody's else's toes. And I don't know. It's a very symbiotic relationship.
Good. That's good.
We all want to help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's obviously enough to go around. And, but I've also seen in the pedal community too, where even different companies have kind of combined to create a single pedal and say, they've collaborated together.
Oh, yeah.
So
JHS and Boss.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good thing. So we actually had a guest that just spoke recently about music stores just kind of coming together, and Richard's always talked about for years. It's just kind of like, don't hate the music store down the street, man. If you can't help the customer, send them down the street, because you know what? They'll reciprocate and send somebody to you when they can't do that. And I feel like there's plenty of room for that. It's the people that want to hoard things and pull off and say, no, mine,
right,
that they're losing something.
There is a competitive nature in the vintage guitar part of town for sure. I mean, they're all on one road, That's
right. I've got the oldest guitar.
When we turn the mic off, we'll talk more.
but yeah, I mean, I feel like even when I worked at Carter, I'd send people to Corner Music, like, hey, I need this weird cable, or I need a mic or something. Like, yeah, go over here. Or if there's some pedal brand or amp, we'd send people to Eastside, for sure. And I think, sometimes it might be a little begrudgingly, you send somebody somewhere else because you wish you had everything. Yeah. Sometimes, but yeah, I mean, I think to survive, there has to be some sort of camaraderie between everybody,
and you kind of have to get over that.
You do.
You have to just realize, hey, I'm not all things.
Right.
I have to have a community of people. I just have to realize I may lose a pedal sale, but I may gain a pedal sale.
Right.
And in order to be at peace with myself and others, I've just got to help people. I've got to turn people on to other people's product, even when I don't want to.
Right.
And it comes back to you, and you sleep better at night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely. I feel like, a lot of the conversation that we're having here on the Music Retail Show is about the music industry and how are we going to be moving forward. A lot of conversations. I think this has been great because we've talked about, we have to incorporate video and social media.
Oh, yeah. YouTube is a whole nother conversation. It's so crucial, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me. So, I mean, we could talk about that if you want.
YouTube. No, wait. YouTube's great because I sit in my bed till 1 o'clock in the morning watching stupid cat videos.
No. From a retail standpoint, just being able to even if you have a small store, does anyone not have a smartphone? You can make just a video tour of your shop.
Yeah.
Where if somebody's searching you and they don't know anything about you, just throw up a video on YouTube. It doesn't have to be the best thing.
What about
something is better than nothing?
What about this psychology behind that? I think most people are going to battle, and we do it here, and most people go, "Oh, I'm not going to create any content that people care about."
Right.
How would you encourage people?
Yeah, I think I've kind of approached it, and how I would tell people to approach it is kind of like dating. you just have to put yourself out there. Someone is going to latch onto it, and
she's going to say no. I know it. She's going to say no.
Or like earlier, his wife, shut up.
I mean, in my experience, I was shot down so many times.
Yeah.
So you have to prepare for that level of disappointment. But with video and with anything where you're kind of having to showcase yourself or do something that you might not feel super confident in, you just have to do it. And I think the people that can see the earnestness and the honesty in it they're gonna get it.
They're gonna help you.
Because if they don't, they're probably not gonna come by anyway.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
No, I get that, and it's a big conversation. And are you a member of NAMM?
I let my membership lapse. Which
man.
I don't know. I probably should get it again.
Well, Cosby needs to give him a call then. So we've actually created a relationship with NAMM, and we're big fans of NAMM. I think they're trying to help the industry grow, and we always encourage everybody to go to the shows, one or the other.
Right. I'll definitely go, and I've exhibited a few times.
Yeah.
I had my own booth at Summer NAMM last year.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It didn't seem to pay off as much as I would have liked at first. Mm-hmm. And this is something I get asked by other pedal brands too, and other just people in the industry. Should I have a booth at NAMM? And what are you trying to accomplish? Because I tried to schedule appointments and stuff, and it just sometimes doesn't always pan out. It's expensive, and There's definitely a FOMO thing with it, fear of missing out.
I was like, what is FOMO? I didn't actually know what that was.
Fear of missing out. Like, if you don't go, then you're going to miss something. But I don't know, a lot of pedal brands they stopped going.
Okay.
Like JHS only does winter NAMM. They don't do summer.
They did.
NAMM.
Well, in this past winter, we were out there. The music retail show was actually out at NAMM, and I walked through, and it seemed like Pedal World. They had all the pedal companies kind of shoved back in a corner, which not shoved back in a corner, but they were all congregated together. Mm-hmm. And man, there's a lot of pedal companies. But they also at the same time, there's a lot of pedal companies that are making great product.
But there's a lot of guitar players too.
There's a ton of guitar players.
Arguably too many. As a drummer, arguably too many.
Well, hey, most bands.
That's why you have to double up and have two guitar players.
What is
in
that
one
like?
band.
Leonard Skinner. They have like 7 guitar players on stage or something.
I don't
like
count
that.
Leonard Skinner in this conversation. So, anyways, we're going to say something that's going to offend somebody. So I'll keep going and keep offending. I mean. Just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes we say stuff that just, arguably should not be said.
My wife edits my videos. Whenever I say something stupid, she's like, "You need to take that part out."
I want to meet your wife because I think I would actually like her.
Yeah,
she's like, "Shut up, edit that out."
Get out to the garage. No,
she's probably the nicest, sweetest girl.
Oh, she is. Yeah, and she's a musician too, so she has a good ear. And
good.
The reason I knew the Chupacabra was done is because she said that sounds like Billy Gibbons, and I'm like,
wow.
Got it.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, hey, to wrap things up, if you had anything else you'd want to get out there, people to know, what would it be?
Just give us a follow, on Instagram. It's at mythospedals.com. Check out all the things that's going to be coming. We're really trying to work on the delay pedal, and some more things are coming down the pipe. Some more exclusives to some stores. So just give us a follow, and you're going to see some cool things happening.
Now, how can anybody that's interested in being a dealer of your pedals contact you?
Through my website. That's the easiest way. You can get...
And what is the name of that?
Mythospedals.com.
Okay.
And you can just shoot me a message. I would love to talk to more dealers all over the country, because we have a few pockets. You can go to our dealer page and see where the stores that we currently have are. So chances are, if you're in that same state, may not hop in right yet, just because it's hard for me to keep up with orders.
Yeah, sure.
But if you're not, I'd love to have some more shops all over the country.
Yeah,
sure. Awesome.
All right, everybody, go to mythospedals.com, and just connect with Zach. This is obviously, man, it's been a pleasure of ours to have this
Thanks for having
conversation.
me.
Great looking pedals.
Man, they're great
Thank
pedals. I think everybody needs to give them a try, or at least contact you, and you'll let them know if they can try.
That's right.
But but anyways, but man, I guess that's it, man. We appreciate it. Everybody go to themusicretailshow.com to obviously see this episode and other episodes that we have. And of course, you can always reach us at themusicretailshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear any feedback about Zach and Mythos pedals and everything he's got going on.
Yep.
But we appreciate it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
The Music Retail Show.